Frida Kahlo, full name Magdalena Carmen Frida Kahlo Calderon, was born on July 6, 1907, in Cayocan, then a small town on the outskirts of Mexico City. She was born in Casa Azul, the Blue House, which later became a symbol closely associated with her life and artistic legacy and is now the famous Frida Kahlo Museum. Frida was the third daughter in her family. Her father, Guillermo Kahlo, was a German-born photographer who emigrated to Mexico and became a naturalized citizen. He was known for his architectural photography and had a deep influence on Frida, both artistically and spiritually. Her mother, Matilda Caldron y Gonzalez, was of indigenous Mexican and Spanish descent, a devout and strong-willed woman. Matilda had a distant relationship with Frida, something that would later appear frequently in Frida's paintings, often through themes of family and isolation, from a very young age. Frida suffered from poor health. At age 6, she contracted polio, which left her right leg thinner and caused her to limp for the rest of her life. This illness forced her to be isolated from her peers for long periods, making her a lonely and introspective child. To help her recover and grow stronger both physically and mentally, her loving and understanding father encouraged her to take up sports such as soccer, swimming, and even boxing, activities rarely seen among girls at the time. Guillermo was also the first to inspire Frida artistically. He often took her along on his photography assignments and taught her about composition and lighting. In contrast, Frida's relationship with her mother was distant. Frida once described her as a stern, cold, and superstitious woman. Although her family wasn't materially poor, Frida's childhood was filled with loneliness, illness, and silent emotional wounds, all of which became recurring motifs in her later artwork. On September 17, 1925, when Frida was only 18 years old, a tragic accident struck. On her way home from school with her boyfriend Alejandro Gomez Arias, the bus they were riding was hit by a streetcar. The crash was devastating. A metal rod impaled her abdomen and uterus, and she sustained numerous injuries: a shattered pelvis, spinal fractures, broken collarbone, ribs, and her right leg was severely damaged. Doctors did not expect her to survive, but Frida fought her way back from the brink of death. However, survival came with immense physical suffering that would haunt her for the rest of her life. She was bedridden for months, wore full-body plaster corsets, and underwent more than 30 surgeries throughout her life. During her long recovery in bed, Frida began to paint at first, simply to pass the time and find emotional relief. Her mother installed a mirror on the ceiling of her bed, and her father gave her a set of oil paints. This enabled her to start painting self-portraits. These early works, mostly self-depictions, were not only visual expressions but also cathartic releases of her pain, rich with emotion, identity, and inner conflict. Her physical suffering became the fuel for her artistic inspiration. From here, Frida gradually carved out a distinctive voice in the art world, feminine yet fierce, raw, and haunting. This marked the beginning of her journey to becoming one of the most iconic artists of the 20th century. Although she is now celebrated as a great painter, Frida Kahlo initially dreamed of becoming a doctor. In 1922, she enrolled in the National Preparatory School in Mexico City, one of the most prestigious high schools at the time. Frida was one of the few female students there, showing early signs of her independence and conviction. In this vibrant, academic setting, Frida showed sharp intelligence and a deep concern for social and political issues. She joined a rebellious student group called Los Cachuchas, known for their signature caps and radical spirit. The group resisted injustice and oppression in post-revolutionary Mexico. Frida quickly became a standout member, known for her wit, insight, and progressive thinking. At school, she also began connecting with young writers, artists, and intellectuals, many of whom would later become key figures in modern Mexican culture. This period laid the foundation for her lifelong commitment to leftist politics and Marxist ideology. As she entered the world of painting, Frida sought guidance from leading artists of the time. In 1928, she brought some of her work to Diego Rivera, a renowned painter and prominent member of the Mexican Communist Party. While he was working on a mural at the Ministry of Education, Diego, 21 years her senior, was immediately captivated by her unique and raw style. Not long after, the two began a passionate but complicated relationship, at times filled with love, at times with heartbreak. Frida once said she had suffered two accidents in life. One was the tram crash, and the other was Diego. They married on August 21, 1929, despite strong objections from Frida's family. People called their union the marriage between an elephant and a dove, referring to Diego's large, raw physique compared to Frida's petite frame. Diego not only supported but encouraged Frida to pursue painting seriously, thanks to his connections. She gained access to major exhibitions and received recognition both nationally and internationally. Though she remained modest and often doubted her worth, after their marriage, Frida and Diego lived in the U.S. for several years, 1930 to 1933, primarily due to Diego's large mural commissions in San Francisco, Detroit, and New York. This was a pivotal time in Frida's artistic development, exposing her to modern Western culture and shaping her unique voice in art. This time was also dark on a personal level. Frida had several pregnancies, but due to the severe injuries from her accident, she could not carry a child to term. She experienced multiple miscarriages and abortions, each deeply traumatic. One of the most devastating moments came in 1932 when she miscarried in Detroit. This tragedy was immortalized in her painting Henry Ford Hospital, where she depicted herself naked and bleeding on a hospital bed, surrounded by symbolic images of a fetus, uterus, and surgical tools. Despite their bond, Frida and Diego's relationship was continually tested by betrayal. The most painful for Frida was Diego's affair with her sister, Cristina. It was not only an emotional blow, but a breach of familial trust. Unable to bear it, they divorced in 1939 after 10 years of marriage. Frida and Trotsky had a brief but intense affair. She even gifted him a self-portrait for his birthday. In 1940, Trotsky was assassinated by a Soviet agent. Frida was interrogated as a suspect but was quickly released due to lack of evidence. So in 1940, they remarried. This time, not out of romantic fantasy, but as a commitment to be lifelong companions in art ideals and mutual understanding. Their remarried life remained turbulent but more grounded. Despite her declining health and long hospitalizations, Frida Kahlo continued to create. She became one of Mexico's most important artists, known for her symbolic, surreal, and deeply personal style. Frida began to attract international attention from the 1930s onward, with exhibitions at 1938 First Solo Show in New York, Julian Levy Gallery, widely acclaimed by critics and the public. 1939 exhibition in Paris, surrealists like André Breton praised her work, though she never identified as a surrealist herself, shows at MoMA Museum of Modern Art in New York and in major venues across Europe and the US, ironically. She remained underappreciated in Mexico during her lifetime. Only in 1953, a year before her death, did she have her first solo exhibition in Mexico at Galeria La Torre's Arte Contemporáneo. By then, her health had severely declined. Her right leg had been amputated due to gangrene, and she had to attend the exhibition in an ambulance. Still, she lay in her bed at the gallery, talking to visitors and passionately sharing her art. Frida Kahlo passed away on July 13, 1954, just days after her 47th birthday. The official cause of death was pulmonary embolism, though some historians and relatives suspect she may have taken her own life, possibly by overdose, suggested by her final journal entries and declining mental health. Her ashes are housed at Casa Azul, her childhood home in Cayocan, now the Frida Kahlo Museum, attracting millions of visitors annually. Her final diary entry, written with trembling hands and raw emotion, read, "Espero alegre, la celada, y espero no volver." Jamas, I joyfully await the departure and I hope never to return. Today, Frida Kahlo is not only celebrated as a brilliant painter, but also as a global cultural icon, especially in the following movements. Feminism, she embodied an image of the independent, untraditional woman, LGBTQ+ community. She lived openly as a bisexual woman, reflected in her art and life. Disability advocacy, despite chronic pain and physical limitations. She demonstrated extraordinary creativity and strength. Mexican indigenous art. She proudly incorporated Mexican folk culture and helped revive and preserve national identity through her work. Her face, thick eyebrows, and floral headdresses have become enduring visual symbols, appearing in everything from films, fashion novels, and even tattoos and internet memes.